Yo, what's up? We're going to talk about trinkets, because I feel like talking about trinkets. I have up information here from Blood Mallet. It is a good site if you want just a snapshot of preliminary information. Obviously, this is just pure data based on either one target, target, or five targets in a 5-minute simulation. This is good information. However, I think we can assume that this is not the end-all be-all, and neither should you assume that this is the end-all be-all on how effective and efficient that these things can be. So I want to talk about the Fury trinkets for Mythic Plus and Raid, and then the Arms trinkets for Mythic Plus and Raid as well. I have been playing a decent amount of Arms. I had a really good run here, running the Bladestorm build, which is certainly my preferred build for Mythic Plus. And I had 252k overall, which is pretty damn good. It's honestly probably one of the best I've had for Throne of the Tides for this dungeon. And this is also considering they did patch out Ozmat's bonus damage. So this is all natty. You're not getting any weird bonus bullshit with this, right? So, Fury Raid Trinkets. What do I think is good? What do I think is worth you farming and spending your time on, right? Cataclysm and Augury, they're just good. They're from the third to last boss and last boss, respectively. They're good, they do damage, they're worth going for. However, I believe Might of the Ocean is going to really shine in a few different situations for a few different reasons. Razan's Gleaming Eye is essentially Cataclysmic Signet Brand. It's just a primary stat trinket that does damage. This one just does more damage. That's kind of all it is. So, because of that, I'm not even going to talk about this trinket because these are basically the same thing. I think Mind of the Ocean is worth your time farming. I personally just finished farming mine. I got this today, and it's very, very good. But one thing that I think people need to consider is in raid designs and encounters, a lot of these fights outside of Volacross and Naimu, do we have a third single target boss? Is there a pure outside of those two? Is there a pure single target boss? Volacross, Naimu, Smolderon. Okay, Volacross, Naimu, and Smolderon. Outside of those three bosses, generally, you're going to be playing your pure single target damage. I think Smolderon is a bit of a special case. However, I want to make a video on Smolderon itself. I kind of want to make a video talking about the different raid fights, personally. And so, that's what I'll do later, but I don't want to flood this video with that. So for Raid, I'm going to say Augury and Cataclysmic are going to be your go-to, whereas Might of the Ocean is certainly going to have its bonuses. I think Might of the Ocean has potential, definitely. Also, because of Raid, there's not many single-target fights. There's a lot of AoE. And because our class is built on having a 1.5-minute burst window, depending on how that works out, Might of the Ocean is going to get some real goddamn value. It's one of the worst items to farm in the game as far as Mythic Plus is concerned, because the dungeon you farm it from, Throne of the Tides, has 10 items in its loot pool. No matter what you do, right? You're here. If you spec Arms, you get the two-hander. Spec Fury, you get the two-hander. You get Protection, there's even a shield. And there is a guaranteed 10 different items that you can drop out of here. This is going to be a difficult item to get. It took me a while to farm mine. However, I think it is worth your time. For Mythic Plus, I'm going to move this over to the 5-target sim. And for Mythic Plus, I'm most likely going to be running, as you probably already saw there, Might of the Ocean and Augury. I think Augury is a very good static damage trinket. Fury specifically does not have anything within itself that interacts with strength. So because we're not amplifying our strength, we're just amplifying our damage through Avatar and Recklessness compared to Arms, Augury is always going to be really damn good. And because, especially Mythic Plus, we're going to be running 1.5-minute burst windows, Might of the Ocean fits right in there. Our burst windows are 1.5. This thing lasts 20 seconds. It will last the full duration of our Roar. It should last the full duration of all of our Bloodthirst charges from our tier set. I don't think you will ever not run these two if you can get them in Mythic Plus. They are just simply too goddamn good. In the variety of situations, I have already tried to run a couple. I had a couple failed 26s that I've ran, and in those failed 26s, I could tell the difference between having a Might of the Ocean and then previously I was running a Razan's Gleaming Eye. It is a significant difference, especially in AoE packs, right? So once again, Might of the Ocean sneaking up and being something incredibly valuable. So if I do pick my raid trinkets, we're going with Cataclysmic Signet Brand, Augury, and Might. And then for Mythic Plus, we are going for Might and Augury. Now over to Arms. Arms is a bit of a weird case right now. Arms is definitely a weird case because it simply doesn't fit. Arms has always had the problem of not being able to AoE and single target well at the same time. It just doesn't. There isn't enough talent points. Can't build and switch around to really get maximum effectiveness. You have a either mid hybrid build that doesn't do either exceptionally well, or you have big AoE or pure single target. It is not very flexible as a class and as a spec, right? Or just as a spec, not the class of. But Arms just isn't very flexible. The only fight where Arms is probably going to outperform in Shine Fury without it receiving some pretty decent aura buffs, I'd have to say, even with the legendary, is Council. And the reason for that is most of Council is built on 2-target cleave. The mobs jump everywhere, they're doing this, that, and the other thing, but your tanks can pretty much guarantee you, depending on what's going on in the fight, 2-target cleave, right? So that's the only raid fight, really, where Arms is going to shine. In raid, the trinkets I would recommend is you have Cataclysmic Signet and Razan's Gleaming Eye, right? But if you're wanting to play Arms and raid, I'd go for the Pip's Emerald Friendship Badge. Mainly because stats are good, and there's not just single target in this raid. I think Cataclysmic Signet Brand is still worth getting and it being one of your main trinkets, just because it just does so much damage. It's just very, very good. But Razan's Gleaming Eye is just a worse version of it. And remember, these are both primarily single target trinkets, right? There's a lot of AoE in raid, and sacrificing your AoE for pure single target, especially if you look at just this slight of a difference here, with a 483 Razan's losing to a Pip's Emerald Friendship Badge at the same 483 mark, which you can get from Heroic. You don't even need the Mythic variation, and to get the Mythic variation of this trinket, you have to get it out of your vault, which is hard to do. Sometimes you just simply won't get it. I spent an entire season trying to get the Phial of Purification from the vault in Shadowlands. Never got it. Literally never got it. 20s, or I think it was 15s at the time, but basically max eye level every single week. One week I even ran 10 Plague Falls to try and get that fucking thing. Never showed up in my vault. So especially trying to minimize the effect of RNG, Pip's Emerald Friendship Badge and Cataclysmic Signet, both very good. And that will be your raid trinkets of choice. And then we go into multi-cleave. The Mirror of Fractured Tomorrows is here, but I don't think it's that good. We can look at the build that they used here in the simulation craft. Oh, shit. Character profile. Okay. So we can look at what they used. This is the Fervor of Battle build. This is what they used to sim AoE. The consistent AoE build for Arms Warrior, right? Because you can look down here, you can see what build they're using. Mirror Fracture Tomorrows is a decent trinket, but my problem with it is I don't like 3-minute trinkets. They're only up every other cooldown set, and then depending on when you need to use your cooldowns, if for say you're between packs and you have your pack here, okay, you use it, you go to the next pack, but in that pack you don't it's too small to actually use your minute and a halves, you're gonna wind up actually sitting and waiting and not using this trinket. This trinket won't give you much value, just because simply you're not using it. and it's probably going to desync with your avatar usage most of the time. So it has potential, but we need to remember that these sims are static. These sims are 5 minutes. They use shit on the dot. They're not missing anything. I don't like Mirror Fracture Tomorrows because it's not very flexible. It shows the highest number, but I'm not a fan of it. Pip's Emerald Friendship Badge, I think, once again, is something you can use. I think it's very good in AoE situations. Obviously, you see the damage here, but I just think as a stat trinket, gives you strength, it's versatile, it's good. One of the reasons why I think it is important that it gives you strength, and why my second pick for arms in Mythic Plus is once again going to be Might of the Ocean. Because the Might of the Ocean is going to be alongside your avatar, and to be fair, I will be biased here. My preferred build in Mythic Plus, and the build you saw me do, or didn't see me, but do this, is the Bladestorm build. One of the reasons why I think Augury is not very good for arms, and why the Bladestorm build's generally, I think, one of my favorite, because there's not like too much skill involved with it. Realistically, with this build, all you're doing, you pop your roar, and then you try and keep up your hurricane buff either through using Avatar or through using Bladestorm to keep up this hurricane buff while your Thunderous Roar is trucking. It is gaining the bonus damage from Hurricane and the increased strength. So we're doing good. But here's where I think the reason why you need strength trinkets on arms. You need them. Because most of the time you're probably going to be running Hurricane, right? In Mythic Plus, I think the Bladestorm build far outperforms the Fervor of Battle build in my testing and how I feel about it. You're not going to be running the single target build. There is a secondary build I've also seen people run, which is a AoE but Juggernaut style build, where you're trying to focus on keeping Juggernaut stacks between packs by using any means necessary. We have a lot of procs through our tier set and through sudden death to keep these procs up, but because this is RNG, I think the build is fun, but I don't think this build is overall going to be the best for arms. I think this Bladestorm build has a lot of potential, and if we can live, I think Bladestorm has the potential to be better than Fury in pure AoE damage. I want to make sure I'm clear when I say that, because one of the problems Arms has versus Fury is Fury just fucking lives, man. Fury does so much healing, is so much tankier, has a passive 10% almost permanent DR. Fury just lives, man. And Arms feels way squishier, which when you get to a certain key level, you don't need to do enough damage. You just gotta live. And that's honestly why people are bringing Augmentation Evokers. Not for damage, because it helps them live. So I think this build has a lot of potential, but I don't really know if it's going to be actually run. But it is far and away my favorite. But because we're using Avatar and we're getting a Bladestorm from Blademaster's Torment when we pop Avatar, and that's increasing Hurricane, Hurricane increases the amount of strength we have by 30% when it's stacked up. Imagine this, dude. Imagine you go into a pack, you have everything ready to go. It is the first pack of the dungeon. You pop your Thunderous Roar. Because of Bloodletting, your Thunderous Roar lasts 16 seconds. You pop your Thunderous, you Warbreaker everything, you pop your Thunderous Roar, and you start spinning with Bladestorm. Now, using Might of the Ocean, you have all of that strength. Currently at 483, Might of the Ocean is giving me 2,500 strength. That is an additional fourth, essentially, of my current strength. Actually, wait, I need to make sure it's not. Okay, when your weapons are fucked up, it doesn't show that. But that is like 20%. That's not 25. It's like 20% of your entire strength pool is just in this Might of the Ocean. And because you're popping that, it lasts 20 seconds. Your Thunderous Roar lasts 16 seconds. You're going to get an entire set of 2 Bladestorms, your full Thunderous Roar, all of your bleeds ticking, with Warbreaker during the entire duration, and it's all amplified by the 30% strength of Hurricane on top of the strength you're getting from Might of the Ocean. That is a crazy amount of AoE damage. I have yet to test this with arms because I just got it and have been testing it with Fury. It works really good with Fury, but I got a feeling if you use it with those Hurricane windows, this thing is going to also crush in AoE damage for arms. That being the case, I'm also going to say you're most likely going to be running Might of the Ocean and Pep Symbol from Friendship Badge for Mythic Plus. Also because anytime you pop Avatar, you pop Might of the Ocean right there with it. You're always getting the value. It's always going to be consistent when you use your cooldowns. You don't have to worry about it not being available or the pack being small. You'll always have it. You'll always use it. You won't desync it. So once again, for Fury and Arms, I think Might of the Ocean really has a tremendous amount of value, as well as Porcelain Crab is interesting, but personally, I am more of a fan of trinkets that are consistent. I don't know how consistent the buff on this thing is, but considering that it requires a proc rate, maybe it procs when you don't want to, these will always be up. These will always be available to you, and they're going to be your best friends. So, Might of the Ocean, big value for Fury and Arms. So, I guess for Mythic Plus, Arms, Might of the Ocean, Pip's Friendship Badge, and for Raid, I would go with Cataclysmic and Pips. Yeah, that's kind of it. I honestly want to talk about... I'm going to start making videos about fight specifics. I'm probably going to go into the each mythic fight. Once we're going to do our reclear pretty soon, and then I think I'm just going to take those VODs and then kind of talk over them as far as how I feel the class plays, things you can do. There's a lot of parse monkeying that you can do in this fucking raid, which I don't like. I'll talk about it in those videos, but I'm not a big fan of parse monkeying, personally. But yeah, that if I start going on that, I just won't stop talking. So here's your video on trinkets, on how I feel about trinkets. The other trinkets that I have not talked about for Furious Arms are things that I don't think are too great. I don't think they're things that I'm interested in farming. I'm not going to be going for them. You even see Branch up here. I don't really think Branch is that great. If you can get it and you don't have something better, that's fine. But realistically, most of these I'm not even talking about. I'm not even thinking about. Unless they get a buff, I'll come back to that later. But that's how I feel currently about the trinkets in our current season. Thank you. Bye-bye.